Do people think I just like talking about this all day long? No. It's traumatic. I have to relive things. I have to talk about things that weren't fun in my life. I feel so dumb. I spent hours in time doing this documentary as a favor. I'm not paid one penny.
Yeah.
I didn't do any, like, people are like, oh, I wonder how much she got paid.
A marriage that looked like a fairy tale until this was said. For years, Khloé Kardashian and Lamar Odom's relationship was painted as one of Hollywood's most unexpected love stories. Fast, intense, and almost unreal in how quickly it all happened. But now, years later, a new wave of claims has dragged that romance back into the spotlight and completely changed how people see it. It all started when Lamar Odom opened up in a Netflix documentary, hinting that his marriage to Khloé wasn't just about love the way fans believed. Instead, he suggested there was something else pulling him in: fame, lifestyle, and access to a world he had only watched from the outside.
Everyone is like shocked. Like, how did the tune change so much? And I think it's changed just because he's seeing the response. And now he's like, oh, I'm going to attack her because she's getting so much love.
And just like that, a story many thought was long closed suddenly reopened with a very different tone. But what Khloé said in response? That's where things took a sharp turn no one expected. 30 days. That's all it took for one of Hollywood's most talked about marriages to go from a first spark to I do.
I was asked by Lamar or Lamar's team, whatever you want to say, I was asked if I can do the documentary. I was contemplating because I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. And also I wanted to make sure it was handled in the best way. I said, I want to make sure this is a positive piece. I don't really want to go down this road if it's negative. He's been through enough negative. Let's like turn the tune here. Everyone was like, no, it's amazing. It's going to be really positive. He's the one doing it. He's the one asking. I'm like, okay, cool. Netflix then was like, we can't finish it without you. You're a big chapter. Sure, get that.
When Khloé Kardashian and Lamar Odom got together, it didn't unfold like a slow-burning romance. It exploded into public view almost instantly. One moment they were being spotted together, and before anyone could process it, they were already married.
I willingly do the Netflix thing for Lamar. I'm not getting paid one penny to do this. I have no dog in this fight. It doesn't matter to me if this documentary is made or not made.
Fans were stunned, tabloids couldn't keep up, and Hollywood suddenly had a new power couple that felt larger than life. At the time, it looked like pure magic. A rising reality star from one of the most influential families in entertainment, and an NBA champion with fame of his own, coming together in a relationship that seemed unstoppable. Cameras loved them, headlines adored them, and the world watched like it was unfolding in real time. But even back then, the speed of it all raised quiet questions. How do two people move that fast without something being left unspoken? What looks like confidence from the outside can sometimes be momentum, not stability. And behind the glamorous appearances, the foundation was already being tested in ways the public couldn't see yet. Because what seemed like the beginning of a perfect story was actually the start of something far more complicated. Years later, the story takes a very different tone when Lamar Odom looks back at that marriage through the lens of experience and regret. In his Netflix documentary, he doesn't just revisit the romance, he questions what actually pulled him into it in the first place. And according to his own words, it wasn't just love that influenced his decision. He hints at something more complicated, the pull of fame, status, and the world surrounding the Kardashian name. He reflects on how surreal it felt being around that level of attention and influence. The kind of lifestyle where connections seemed endless, doors opened instantly, and every move carried weight far beyond basketball. Lamar suggests that being inside that environment changed how he saw himself and what he thought he wanted. Even more revealing are the comments shared by people close to him at the time. A friend who attended the wedding claimed Lamar openly spoke about the future he believed he was stepping into, describing a world filled with opportunities and powerful connections tied to the Kardashian family. And suddenly, what once looked like a simple love story starts sounding like something else entirely. An emotional decision mixed with ambition, identity, and pressure from a life moving too fast. But the deeper question is this: did he fully understand what he was stepping into before everything changed forever? Everything in this story takes a darker turn in 2015, when Lamar Odom's life nearly slips away in a way no one saw coming. He was found unresponsive at a brothel just outside Las Vegas after a severe overdose, a moment that instantly shifted him from celebrity headlines to a life-or-death situation. For days, the world watched and waited as updates stayed uncertain, unsure if he would even survive. In the middle of that chaos, Khloé Kardashian re-entered the picture in a way few expected. Even though their relationship had already fractured and they were separated at the time, she stepped in to help manage his medical care and recovery. The public saw it as a moment of loyalty, but behind the scenes, it was far more complicated, emotionally heavy, and deeply personal. What made this chapter even more intense was how it blurred every boundary between past love and present responsibility. The relationship was technically over, yet Khloé found herself pulled back into the most critical moment of his life, one where decisions had to be made fast and emotions were impossible to shut off. And just when it seemed like this tragedy might finally close the door on their story, it actually became the reason everything from their past would resurface again years later. Because survival didn't end the conversation, it only delayed it. Years after the collapse of their marriage, Lamar Odom finally starts putting words to a version of events that feels far more self-aware, but also far more controversial. Inside the Netflix documentary, he reflects on the time he married Khloé Kardashian and describes it in a way that immediately shifts the entire narrative. He admits that stepping into that world felt like a power trip, a sudden leap from NBA fame into something even bigger, louder, and more intense than anything he had experienced before. According to Lamar, it wasn't just about love or commitment, it was also about identity. One moment he was a Lakers champion with his own spotlight, and the next he was attached to one of the most influential families in entertainment. The attention multiplied, the pressure increased, and the lifestyle came with expectations he says he wasn't fully prepared for. But the most striking part isn't just the admission, it's the tone behind it. There's a sense of reflection but also distance, like he's trying to understand a younger version of himself who made decisions without fully grasping the consequences. And once those words went public, it didn't just reopen old memories. It set off a reaction from Khloé that would hit even harder than anything said in the documentary. The moment Khloé Kardashian heard what was being said about her marriage, she didn't stay silent, and her response made it clear this wasn't something she was willing to brush off. On her podcast, she directly addressed Lamar Odom's claims that he married her for fame and lifestyle access. And instead of softening her words, she pushed back with raw frustration, questioning how someone could look back at their relationship and reduce it to that kind of motive. She admitted feeling blindsided, saying she never expected their past to be reframed in such a public and unfiltered way. According to Khloé, she only agreed to take part in the documentary after being told her involvement was necessary to complete it, which left her feeling even more frustrated about how the final narrative was shaped. But what stood out most was the emotion behind her reaction. It wasn't just disappointment. It sounded like someone revisiting a chapter they thought was closed, only to find it reopened in a way that felt unfair and one-sided. She also made it clear she was done revisiting that part of her life, expressing that she had no intention of ever stepping back into anything related to Lamar's story again. And just when it seemed like she had said everything she needed to say, she went even further, hinting at deeper frustrations tied to how she felt treated during and after their relationship. As if the debate around their marriage wasn't already intense enough, things escalated when Khloé brought up moments from their past that painted an even more uncomfortable picture. In her response, she didn't just focus on the documentary claims. She pointed back to experiences from their relationship that she described as disturbing and deeply personal. One of the most talked about examples she referenced involved an incident she found humiliating and invasive, something she said stayed with her long after their separation. Khloé didn't frame it as a casual complaint. The tone was heavier, more emotional, as if she was revealing why revisiting this chapter keeps reopening old wounds. She expressed frustration not just at what was said in the documentary, but at the broader feeling of being misunderstood in a situation that was already painful to begin with. And once she started addressing those memories, the conversation shifted again. It was no longer just about fame, motives, or public perception. It became about trust, boundaries, and how certain moments from the past never fully fade, even years later. What made this even more complicated is that both sides seem to remember the same relationship in completely different ways, each shaped by their own experience of what happened behind closed doors. And that divide leads directly into the bigger question people are still debating today. What really remains of a relationship when the story between two people no longer matches? After everything that's been said, the story stops being just about headlines and starts feeling a lot more human and a lot more complicated. Khloé Kardashian has openly reflected on how her past relationships shaped the way she sees love today. Instead of rushing into new chapters, she's described focusing more on stability, her children, and rebuilding a sense of control over her own life. The energy she projects now feels different, less about public romance, more about protection and peace. Looking back, she's hinted that her experiences changed how she approaches trust and emotional vulnerability. It's not just about one relationship anymore, but a pattern of intense public scrutiny, personal pain, and learning what she is and isn't willing to tolerate going forward. And while Lamar's perspective in the documentary shows reflection and regret in his own way, Khloé's response highlights something else entirely: the long shadow some relationships can leave behind, even when they're officially over. Because when you step back from all the fame, accusations, and interviews, what remains is two people who lived through the same relationship, but walked away carrying completely different versions of it. And that's what makes this story still so talked about today. Because the real question isn't just what happened between them, it's whether either of them can ever fully leave it in the past. When you strip away the headlines, the interviews, and the documentary clips, what's left is a relationship that never really found closure in the way people expected. Lamar Odom's reflections paint a picture of a life that moved too fast, where fame, pressure, and personal struggles all collided at once. Khloé Kardashian's response, on the other hand, shows someone who feels like her story keeps getting reopened every time the past is revisited publicly. And that's what makes this situation so lasting in pop culture. There isn't a clean ending, just two versions of the same experience that don't fully match anymore. What once looked like a fast-moving Hollywood love story has now turned into something more complicated. A reminder that some relationships don't end when people separate. They end when both sides finally stop revisiting them in public. But in this case, that moment still feels far away. And maybe the real question is this: when two people remember love so differently, did it ever really end at all?